that the harb, or the war, the Islamic war, is not just a physical one. It really is. When the Prophet Muhammad says, "Jahidul mushrikina bi anfusikum wa amwalikum wa alsinatikum," that struggle with the enemy, the disbelievers, with yourselves, with your physical selves, and then it says that bi amwalikum, with your monies, and then with your tongues as well.
There's an ayah in the Quran,
وَجَاهِدُهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا.
Yeah, and the scholars say that this is the Quran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got these things, but then this shows you it's very interesting, because if you look at, there's a whole chapter in the Quran called Surah Al-Shu'ara. Surah Al-Shu'ara, the chapter of the poets. It's chapter 26 of the Quran. And the only place where the Shu'ara are actually mentioned is in the last page, maybe in the last 5 ayahs, really. 5, 6 ayahs, 7 ayahs, something like that. And in the beginning, a lot of the poets, when these verses came down, were very upset, because they were poets. You see, they have a creative ability to engage the people on a public level. No, they do. No, they did. But so they were upset because there was dispraise. But the last ayah of that particular surah, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا وَانْتَصَرُوا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا ظُلِمُوا. Yeah, this وَانْتَصَرُوا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا ظُلِمُوا, that except for the ones who believe and do righteous deeds, and they mention Allah a lot, 3 things, religious, and then وَانْتَصَرُوا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا ظُلِمُوا, and they seek retribution after they have been injured. That's what it's saying. What is it talking about? It's talking about the poets. And what is seeking retribution? Some of the mufassirs and exegetes say it is seeking retribution with poetry against those who attack Islam and the Muslims with poetry. Which means now in our times, when someone on social media attacking Islam and the Muslims with prose and discussion and videos and all kinds of things, and if the non-conformists or the ones who don't want to engage because they're saying this is bid'ah or this is whatever, they take to that. Really, I would say that they're deprecating and abasing from the maqasid and objectives of Sharia. Because if the Prophet Muhammad was allowing a people, the poets, to respond in kind with poetry, then ma baluk, or what would you say of the one who would respond in the age of technology and videos and rational argumentation with the same thing? So poetry in and of itself is a tool that can be used for good and is a tool that can be used for bad. Just like the internet and technology is a tool that can be used for good and a tool that can be used for bad. So long as the hadaf and the objective is we are responding with this creative output, in order to respond. Like nowadays you have a lot of people writing stories, fictional stories, and they have their narratives inside of those fictional stories, and there's a kind of impervious reality to a story. An argument, if you say premise, conclusion, is easy to refute. Premise, conclusion, if it's wrong, I can refute it. I can refute the presupposition of the premise, I can refute the premise, I can refute the sequence of the premises and the conclusion. It's pretty easy. Arguments are important. That's why Allah says in the Quran, وَتِلْكَ حُجَّتُنَا آتَيْنَاهَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ عَلَى قَوْمِهِ نَرْفَعُ دَرَجَاتٍ مِّن نَشَاءُ. These are the arguments we gave Abraham against his people, and we raise in rank whoever we want. But Allah doesn't say نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أحسن الحجج, or نحن نحج عليك أحسن الحجج, that we are going to give you the best arguments. It says نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص. We are going to narrate to you the best of stories. Why? Because it's Quran and Islam realizes that there's something about stories. Think about what people do with their time today. What people do with their time when they're relaxing is watch series. If I had to guess, I would say 90 to 95% of the ummah watches Netflix or watches some kind of series on Disney or some other thing, or have watched it at one point in time, or movies. So it is the case that yes, we do need to respond with arguments against arguments. But if you try and use arguments against stories, it's bringing a knife to a gunfight. It doesn't matter if your arguments are correct. Like if you are trying to respond to poetry with physicality. Because there was an output for physicality and there was an output for poetry. You have to beat them on both fronts. It has to be a multifaceted, multi-pronged approach. And the next stage of the da'wah, looking at this example and other examples, should be to use all the halal means possible to us and at our disposal to respond in kind to the kind of damage that's happening to us. I'll give you another example. Many of you have children. I have children as well. And they watch cartoons. Okay. We try and give them the Arabic cartoons, you know, with the subtitles and, you know, the dubbing and all this kind of thing. They watch. You cannot. Trying to separate a child in the 21st century from cartoons is like trying to separate a fish from water. It's ridiculous. Now you can have the non-conformists and say, well, turn the off and this and that. But because of the convenience of how easy it is for a mother to shut a child up or a father to shut a child up, watch this Peppa Pig for 1 hour whilst I just sit and relax for a bit. Cartoons are always going to pervade the houses of the Muslim people. And if cartoons are always going to pervade the houses of the Muslim people, why is it that we have not been able to produce cartoons at the same level as they have been doing it? Islamic ones. Now we have been able to produce them. And I've seen some of the Islamic ones and some very good initiatives. But the kind of money that's being spent, the kind of effort that's being put, it's non-comparable. Hundreds of millions in budget. Why do you think Peppa Pig has tens or hundreds of millions in budget? Why? Because they know the power of creativity. Just like the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims at that time, they knew the power of poetry. And they invested in it. And they encouraged it. And they facilitated it. This is Dawah. Dawah 2024 and over and beyond is when you start thinking creatively now. This is what Islam is like, creative. Where do you fit into that? Because many people are watching this series. I don't want to make this into a theoretical exercise. Many people have different talents in the ummah. Some people we have many IT specialists. They don't know what to do. They love Islam, but they're not great public speakers, for example. Not everyone's meant to be a great public speaker. Leave it to Mohammed hijab. leave it just to him. Leave it to Sabur Ahmed and to Ali Dawah, no problem. And the Sheikh, and there's a few people. Sheikh Abdullah Al-Jari, see what this is, guys. Just leave it to the Sapiens Institute. Just fund them, okay? I'm only kidding. But no, but not everyone has these same talents. Some other guys are like, my God, these guys can make a program overnight on a phone. The question is, how is your program gonna respond to the narratives of the opponent? That's da'wah now, 3D da'wah, 4D da'wah. I'm gonna make a AI da'wah. Now I got AI machines talking. Akhi, wallahi, I watched a video today. I'm telling you, just today. I was having my lunch, I was watching a video, and I clicked it was Joe Rogan. For the first time I've heard in my life, Joe Rogan is speaking like a historian about a wrestler called Abdurrahman Sajulev. And he was telling his whole story and stuff. At the end of it, wallahi, do you know what I realized? It wasn't him. It was AI. It was a voiceover the whole time. I was thinking, my God, it sounded just like him. So how can you make da'wah with AI? How can you make da'wah with ChatGPT? How can you make da'wah with cartoons? How are you going to get into the literary thing? How are you going to do series? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? We're living in the West. We have opportunities that most of the Ummah does not have. So I don't know why I went into this huge tangent, but I think it was a beneficial one, considering that, because Abdullah ibn Rawaha is a poet.
Wow, this was interesting. I hope you learned as much as I did. If yes, please like and subscribe, and I see you tomorrow, inshallah.